It is great to have with us the outstanding Bob Grove. Bob, perfect timing. Great to have you with us.
Great to be on, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I was going to start out by talking about, as the game's going on last night, and they're going overtime to overtime. What a great job, win or lose, that Casey DeSmith did. And then Domingue comes in the game. And I looked up Journeyman, right? And his picture was there.
Yeah.
17 saves, Bob. I mean, in the most unlikely scenario.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing a game where the starting goalie, left in the middle of a multi-overtime period like that. I mean, I really can't. And, we don't have enough information from the Penguins about exactly what it was. There was some speculation he was cramping up and that was the issue, or, he got hurt on some play and, he's got a lower body injury, and it just was strange. And you could, you listen to the Domingue interviews after the game, and he talked about it like he had no idea.
Right.
he was about to go in the game. So you're absolutely right. DeSmith, who's been really good the last month and a half or so. I mean, he has been. He's been good. He was really good, especially early in the game when the Penguins were not quite as ready to play as the Rangers were. He was terrific. So he had a good game. And, I will say this about Domingue. You come in that situation, which is so weird, and all you have to be, Steve, is perfect. You can't let any in.
Right.
And now, I will say that it's not like the Rangers peppered him with grade A scoring chances, because they did not.
No, because I thought the Penguins played really kind of like picked it up in front of him.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. They kept the Rangers. I mean, quite frankly, the Penguins were the better team after about 5 or 6 minutes of the second period, the rest of the night through the overtime periods, even though they were the older team.
Yep.
They were dictating the game, and they kept the Rangers to a lot of their shots were not great chances. So, but all marks, full marks to Louis Domingue for what he just did. It's amazing.
Well, my running joke was, because I think Emily Kaplan went here to Penn State, and she gave the report on the extra goalie. See, he said, "Going, oh, please don't get hurt."
Yeah,
that was wild. As I'm watching the game last night, sometimes a guy doesn't figure in the scoring, although one of the guys I'm about to mention did. But they played a really good game. They're the reason why you won. I felt like both Rodriguez and Kapanen played those kind of games last night where, they're not scoring goals, although Kapanen would get an assist on the game winner because he got it started. But I thought their roles last night were exactly what the Penguins needed. What did you think, Bob?
No, I agree with you that they both played well, and I think I would especially underline Kapanen. So when Raquel gets hit and leaves the game late in the first period, both of those guys get bumped up, up the lineup, and Rodriguez moves up to the third line and Kapanen up to the second line. And Kapanen's the guy who obviously has been a problem all season. He's underachieved. There's no consistency to his play. And last night, he was involved a little physically. Mm-hmm. He was responsible with the puck. Yeah. He was skating with it. He looked like almost like a completely different player. And to your point, yes, he got an assist on the game-winning goal. But there's a lot to like about the way he played in that game last night. And that's what you need when you get into multiple overtime games. Boy, look, they're down a forward. They only have 11 forwards to begin with. Right. If you have passengers at that point, for whatever reason, it's a big, big problem. And, there were a couple of forwards I wasn't real enamored with. I didn't think Bluger had a particularly great game. No. Carter's line was okay as a unit, but I didn't think he was particularly strong either. But otherwise, the Penguins got what they needed from their support guys, even though they didn't show up on the score sheet. They didn't score the goals, but the Penguins, like I said, they dictated the play largely in all three overtimes. And both of those guys, the one common denominator, Steve, is speed for both Kapanen and Rodriguez. Like, Rodriguez is getting lit up over the last half of the year because he can't finish. But getting to pucks, using his speed to get into spaces where he can score has never been a problem. Or is it getting shots on goal? So, kudos to both of them for stepping up and playing better.
It's interesting, though, on the speed part of it. You're going to put teams on their heels, and they're going to give, it's like the corner backing off a couple of yards because he's got some speed on him. Rodriguez will eventually finish, or he'll get somebody else to finish, but he's going to get more space because of his speed.
Yeah, I mean, and he tries to use it in the best way possible, which is, I mean, when he sees he's got a chance to beat somebody, he really has been pretty consistent in getting to pucks. So there's a lot of talk about, look, everybody's looking at his numbers. And I have a problem with, I mean, the guy has had incredible chances in the second half of the season. So it's true that he's not finished anywhere near the way he should. But you got to give guys marks for getting pucks to net, which he generally has done, and for creating space for himself and his line mates. And he does that pretty consistently. Yeah. So that part of his game, there's no complaints about.
What can you say about the number of minutes and the quality of minutes that Chris Letang logged last night?
Well, he's amazing, and we've been watching him do this. Well, not 46 minutes, but we've been watching him play incredible minutes every season. And last night, Steve, there were times in the early in the third overtime period. I watched him. I said, you can't tell. This could be the second period of a game. Yeah. The way Letang is playing, right. He's an amazing. His physical condition is incredible. This guy never looked tired last night, and trust me, he drives a lot of what goes on when he's on the ice. Not going to show up in the score sheet, but what a season he's having, Steve. I mean, think about it. This guy, everybody goes back to his year in 2016 when he scored the goal that put the Penguins they put them ahead to stay in San Jose, and he had an unbelievable playoff run, and that was the year he put up his career high in points and all that kind of stuff. He just turned 35, and he had the best year of his career. How many guys do you think can say they just accomplished that at the age of 35? It's rare.
Well, it's rare because what's interesting about the NHL, and when Crosby signed a contract, and I want to say Crosby was 27 or whatever when he signed this particular contract, I did an entire segment on my show about, okay, he's going to put up really great numbers, but he may not put up the numbers he put up before. And I cited all these guys after 25, Howe, Gretzky, or, the guys, that still put up some numbers, but at the age of 25. That's why when you're talking about Letang at 35, that's unbelievable because that goes against the norm of the league.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, it is. I mean, they're just, when you get to this age, and look, and we all know, guys today, because of the way they take care of themselves, can play into their late 30s and sometimes into their 40s, as we see with Zdeno Chara.
Yep.
But to put this kind of a load on one guy, and that's why with him, his contract situation. So, look, we don't know if he's coming back.
Right.
But I don't know how you fill a hole. If you don't re-sign him, I don't know how you fill that hole that Chris Letang fills up right now. Quarterback to power play 26, 25 minutes every night. He's been so good.
He is to the Penguins what Victor Hedman is to Tampa Bay. And Hedman's 31, by the way. I mean, in other words, these are the guys that are expected to be the stalwart defensively, but then when it comes time to transition, Letang and Hedman are two of the better transition guys in from one end of the ice to the other that the league has right now and maybe has had the last 15 years.
Yeah, no, and their teams rely on them. Trust me, they really do. But there's a comfort level for everybody on that bench that Letang's got this.
The Rangers did win 3 out of 4 during the regular season. So the Penguins go out and get the first one they needed. Now they have, quote, home ice to their advantage moving forward. Okay, how does Mike Sullivan need to handle today after last night to get ready for the next one?
Well, he's got to tell them to remember how they got from 0-2 to 2-2 last night.
Right.
Because how they did it was they found their forecheck. And that's how the Rangers established a 2-0 lead. They were the better team in the first period. But after the first few minutes of the second, the Penguins started to forecheck consistently in the New York zone. They had no zone time in the first period. And so that's what he's got to do, is he's got to remind them not how they won the game at the end of it, but how they pulled themselves back into the game. And that's how they did it for me. So that's what they've got to continue to do, because the Rangers, look, we've been talking about the Penguins' speeds of some of their guys, but the Rangers still probably have better team speed than the Penguins do. But that wasn't evident last night. To me, when I watched that game in overtime, I thought, wow, the Penguins' experience is really paying off for them right now, because they are pushing the game and they look more confident, and the Rangers don't. They look uncertain about how it's all gone south for them. And some of that was because of the goal that got pulled back. I didn't think they dealt with that the right way. But, wow. I mean, the Penguins just that's what they have to do. You have to play the Rangers. If you're going to beat them, you got to play in their zone.
Mm-hmm. That's right. No, you got to tilt the ice on them. You got to make them play defense. Because they want to attack. Now I want to get to Gensel for a moment. He had a couple last night, which is not unusual. This is what Gensel does. Bob, You've watched a lot of guys who have the ability to find the net. What is it about Gensel that puts him in that category of being one of the better ones that knows how to find the net?
Well, first of all, he's able to read plays. I mean, anyone who watches him will tell you the hockey smarts. His dad's a hockey coach, so he grew up with the game. A lot of guys grow up with it if you've reached this level. But, I mean, he's got a different kind of perspective that comes through. So he knows how to read a play, and he knows how to get himself in position. And then when the puck's coming to him, I mean, his finishing ability is just off the charts. And there are probably still some people around the NHL will say, well, he's playing with Sidney Crosby, so he scored 40 goals, so what? Well, look, much like we did with Mario, we can always point to guys who played with Sid or Mario and couldn't get it done, because you got to think the game at a different level, and he does that. So he's smart, and he's unbelievably quick hands and finishing ability. And he's not that big, and he will hang out in front of the net. And that's why people are saying, he gets beat up in the playoffs. Well, that's the price you pay.
Yari Curry played with Gretzky. Mike Bossy played with Brian Trottier. Kenny Hodge played with Phil Esposito. Look, guess what? You know what? That's why it's called a team sport, right? It's great that he's with Crosby. Well, guess what? He makes it pay off.
Yeah, he does. No, that's absolutely right. You'd never say that about Mike Bossy, the late Mike Bossy, and that death hit the NHL so hard. I've never seen a guy with a quicker release in my life than Mike Bossy. And Trottier was an unbelievable player, but Mike Bossy just was like, he was in a league all by himself. As far as you want to talk about a guy who's a sniper, that's him.
Well, I've said that on this show so many times. When they'd be talking about this guy or that guy, I say, guys, don't leave out Mike Bossy. Right? I'm trying to remember. Bossy was he was a right winger, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. And boy, did he have a shot. Bob, what a pleasure. Appreciate it. Always love talking hockey with you, my friend. Thank you.
Same here, Steve. Thanks for having me.